Hey guys, here I am again with another Jake's Metal Chat. This is episode 14. Um, Hopefully my guest appears soon. He's in America. He's currently doing work from home, like a lot of us are. I'm just gonna. It's a bit of a mess, might as well. I'm gonna be doing another update video a bit later on from here. Just see where he's at. Might have to pause this before he gets on, but I might as well let you know what's going on with my other videos. In terms of my CD collection videos, that will be happening. Things have got in the way, like work and doing stuff with my community theatre that I go to. Music as well. That's been a big priority for me because I'm trying to get music out, and yeah, I think might have done this a little bit later. I might just pause it for a bit just in case he's not. No, he's not on my mark. What was I saying? Yeah, I'm going to be doing something that I used to do on this channel before I decided what I was going to do. What I was going to say out of it, which was mainly just do music stuff. But a mate of mine wanted me to review a film that he did music for, so I will be doing some film reviews, mainly horror related content. So look out for that, and let's go there. Cool. My guest is literally just finishing up on a meeting. So yeah, I will be doing some film reviews. So if there's any horror films you want me to review, let me know. Or I might just do a completely separate channel to what I do here. But I just want to let you know. My mate is an American guest. This mate of mine lives in Boston, and a little backstory before I get on to how I know him. Me and my mate Alex, who's in Aventel, my our folk metal band that I showed a business card to Chris too when I had him on, and we went to Sweden. He's been a bunch of times before I have. The only place in Scandinavia I've been to up to that point was Denmark, and that was years ago, back in the early 90s. We went there. We went to Schiphol Airport in Amsterdam. We got there about 6 o'clock in the morning because our flight was at like 4 o'clock, like 4:30 in the morning. Thereabouts. Oh no, our flight was at 6 o'clock in the morning there. We didn't get to Amsterdam until about 12-ish, about that time, because I feel our flight was like 10, 11 o'clock in the morning, and then we bumped into, because I saw my guest and his mates at this little cafe in the airport, and I thought, should I talk to them? No, I'm too tired, and thought just leave them to it. And then they started chatting to us. Well, he started chatting to us, and then he said hello, and then we bumped into them at a pub in Stockholm called the Omnipollo, which is fantastic, by the way. Does a lot of great craft beers and a lot of great stone baked pizzas. Brilliant stuff. And then obviously met up with them just throughout different times of the day, like different days, like Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Hang out with them at this medieval restaurant in Stockholm. Well, it's a very Viking-based bar and restaurant, and I had pretty much lots of food because I knew I was going to be drinking a lot last night. Because the reason I went there was because of Dismember, and plus seeing Swedish bands in Sweden is just the best because you get to zoom in their hometown with a hometown crowd. T-shirt man today, Fresh Crawl from Germany. In terms of other guests for Jake's Metal Chat, still trying to get more guests. I want to get 2 mates of mine from here, from here in Bristol, and another band that Calum, who was in the second episode of this for Jake's Metal Chat with Der Solocostum. He's in another band called Voluntas, like I mentioned before, mentioned on that video, and because I bought the album from them recently, and well, because there's a lot of CDs I'm going to be listening to this weekend, and I'm going to be doing a lot of other things. I'll be playing Bloodborne on my TV here, of course. Got PS4, and we'll be getting a PS5 at some point because Resident Evil 8 is being released on that console, and I think is only on that console. Again, with thumbs up because I don't know if you've seen it, but yeah, I don't know. Like I said, I want to get him on with his other band. I want to try and get another mate of mine on who I mentioned in a shout out video to Cam and Ken, and also Ed in Amsterdam, and my mate Phil, and who does Phil's Breakfast Metal. I want to get him on here, and a mate of mine on here named Katie. If you see her on YouTube, and she does great videos, she's done like all sorts of videos, but I want you to check her channel out for yourself. Try and get on here as well. Don't know what else to say because I'm just waiting for my guests to come on. And of course I'll need to or make some food later or just order in, I don't know. But I'd like to thank those who have been subscribing to my channel and watching these videos. I did get a comment on my last Jake's Metal Chat video saying that I have noticed this, I do tend to chat over my guests, and I apologise to all my guests that I've done that to. Very sorry, and of course I'll be taking that under consideration. I'll be taking that on the head, and I'll ask him what I want to ask him, and I'll let him talk. Because I tend to think like, if I don't get what I'm going to say out, I'm going to forget it. And I guess a lot of people can relate to that too. Okay, he's seen my thumbs up. I don't know if he's coming on yet because I need to. No. I'm the only participant at the moment. I am the host. So, recap. CD collection videos are coming. So also vinyl, tape, some horror movie reviews here and there, and some more, and hopefully some band related news in terms of my bands or other bands either here in Bristol or in London or Birmingham or wherever in the UK or across the pond, so to speak, or even just updates on my own bands and what I'm doing. Because not only with the CD collection videos, I'm going to go back to that. So not only am I going to show CDs, I will actually try and do some album reviews as such, but actually just, or maybe actually just find a band, talk about the band, and then show the CDs that I got and what I think of them. I'm still planning out what sort of videos I'm going to do, and I'm going to continue with Jake's Metal Chat when I can, when I get guests. We'll probably take a break between doing a lot of videos of Jake's Metal Chat and just focusing on CDs and vinyl and tape videos and the horror film reviews. And with the CD videos, obviously it's all metal, obviously, but then I'm going to show some CDs that are not metal, but a lot of metalheads would be very much into or influenced by. Because I recently picked up one of Slasher Dave's albums, which I am trying to remember. I don't want to make guesses out, but Slasher Dave. What's I'm trying to think of the album? It's Frights. That's the one. That's the one I picked up at $20 spin, along with Spectral Voice, Nocturnal. Yeah, Nocturnal Doom. Probably got that wrong, but out myself now. Yeah, it's probably Nocturnal Doom. And Fed It. Necrotic Doom. I don't always say Nocturnal. Necrotic Doom, which is a fantastic demo from start to finish. So I got on CD, but looking at it now was, oh yeah, there's only 3 tracks. I thought there was like 6 tracks because it was only like on the Metallica, it was only like the same 3 tracks. I thought there's 6, but there's only 3. Got Fedit's album that they released in. So I'm just gonna do a little bit of searching on bands that I will be talking about in CD videos until my guest arrives. Steeping Corporal Mass, I think I said the first name wrong, on the album, which is from 2019, 7th of June it came out, so that's a year old. And I've heard the album, it's flipping fantastic, and one of the members, I'll say his last name, Lindstorm, is from the band Cerebral Rot, which I also got their album, Cerebral Rot's album from as well. And also I need to fit this in before my guest turns up. I am going to be having my own radio show, which I'll probably mention in another video, but yeah, I'm just trying to get as many bands' music on as possible, ask them and see if they're okay with me playing their music. I think I'm going to say this wrong. Odysseus, Descent into Decay. And that's the Cerebral Rot album. Probably said the first name wrong. Pronunciation's not my strong point, and my mate guest is here. Let me get him on, and then I can let him get back to work. So I get his video on. Connecting audio, but what about connecting video? Hello.
Turn on the, what's up? Can you hear me?
Hey.
Yeah.
There's Matt.
Yeah. I'm here.
Hello. Finally on Jake's Metal Chat.
What's going on, buddy?
Not a lot. Done some work today and just chilling out now.
Is that a Flesh Crawl shirt I see you're wearing?
Yeah, Flesh Crawl, some German death metal, and got some Swedish death grind on there, some General Surgery.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
I saw Flesh Crawl played last year, or was it last year? Maybe a year and a half ago. No, it was last year, and they're playing Maryland Death Fest, and they ended up doing a one-off date. So I live in Boston. They were in Providence, Rhode Island, which is only about 45 minutes from here. They played this tiny little club in Providence, and there was maybe like 15 people there. They played a full set. It was awesome.
That's cool. Yeah, I saw them last year in Cardiff. They were playing the Eradication Fest, and I was like, I just kept getting served like whiskey from one of the members. Like, you have some whiskey. Like, yes. Well, welcome to Jake's Metal Chat. You are my 14th guest.
Wow. All right. I love it. 14. Too bad I couldn't be lucky 13. Who was the 13th?
Chris Ryford from Autopsy.
Well, that's perfect.
He was lucky 13. So for any of my guests watching this, don't know who this man is. This is Matt. He's one of the many mates that I made at Scandinavia Death Fest. Because I met him, I said to people earlier, met you at Schiphol Airport in Amsterdam. And then we just continuously kept bumping into each other, which was weird.
It was funny, man. I just remember walking through the airport, and that was first time we had ever attended a European metal festival. So we were so psyched, and walking through the airport, and seeing you and your buddy Alex just sitting in the terminal, and walked by and we're like, all right, you know, the universal sign of the horns, and got to chat for a few minutes, and then it was just hilarious, man. Like, we're walking around town everywhere we went. You know, there was,
it was just like, it's like, you're there. It's like at the palace, and then from Djurgården, and then we went to that Viking medieval restaurant where I made him and the other three laugh when I told them about a mate of mine getting drunk at Download. Like
we had
we had
quite a few laughs during that dinner. I think the people in the restaurant didn't take too kindly to the fact we were so loud and
yeah, I had to talk to
freaking hilarious.
Yeah, I talked to a Welsh bloke who was there wearing a Rugby World Cup shirt, because it was the Rugby World Cup last year, of course. And I said, "Oh yeah, if you heard me and my mates laughing too loud, I do apologise." He's like, "Nah, it's fine." It's like brilliant. So that's like metal. Yeah,
three Americans, 2 Brits, and a Swede walk into a bar. There's got to be some sort of joke there.
Yeah, it's like 3 Americans, 2 Brits, and a Swede walk into a bar. Chaos ensues. That's the joke. That's the joke. That's it. We don't need it to be any more than that. Let's talk some metal and other things. And
yeah,
and I see 3 guitars behind you.
Oh,
look at those.
Oh yeah. So that's the Jackson over here, the gray Rhodes. That's my go-to guitar in Cynicism. So we it's a great guitar. The thing plays like butter, and it's awesome. And that's Bill, who is the other guitarist in Cynicism. His guitars here. We actually jam and rehearse at the house, so all their gear just stays here. And then of course the Dave Mustaine Dean signature, which was an impulse purchase many years ago when I saw that thing come on, and it has like the bloody angel wings and stuff like that, and looked perfect for gore metal.
Yeah, it's brilliant. So yeah, let's again let's talk some metal and other bizarre things if you want to talk bizarre. But yeah, there we go. Where did your love of metal begin, and your love of grind and music and whatever? How else?
Geez, I mean it started when I was a young kid. You know, just I was growing up in a little suburban town, and actually Bill, who is the guitarist for Cynicism, him and I literally grew up next door to each other, next house over. Cool. And, you know, we were just kids kind of starting to explore different styles of music. And as a joke, somebody had given my buddy Bill a Cannibal Corpse album, and just said, you know, they found this at a store, and they thought it would be funny to give him this album. And, you know, we checked it out, and we're like, oh man, this is badass. And so you started to learn more about death metal. Prior to that, obviously we were into, you know, Slayer and Metallica and Megadeth and Sepultura and all those amazing bands. But that was kind of our first foray into death metal, and from there we just kind of went down the rabbit hole, more extreme.
That's what happens.
I'm kind of, you know, people say that their listening taste and style kind of mellows out with age, and you know, I've been into this music for 25 years at this point, and I feel like my taste gets more extreme with time. You know, I'm always, and that's where I kind of got more into the grind. But the more I got into the underground, the more my thirst for sort of more extreme sounds, faster sounds, more intense, more brutality. I kept diving deeper and deeper and deeper into the underworld of extreme music, and just trying to find those things that were just abrasive and brutal and extreme, you know?
Yeah, that's basically me, because I got into Cannibal Corpse when I was 14 years old. So this is when I started secondary school, because I got into metal like 2 years before that. So I've been listening to metal since 2003. So that's like 17, 18 years like now, thereabouts.
You know what? It's wild, Jake, because when you start to think about it, you know, it almost is easier if you got into metal 20 or 30 years ago.
Yeah.
Because there's so many incredible bands out now. There's so much music out there, and it just compounds. So year over year, there's thousands of albums that get released every year, and you can't even begin to touch and listen to all of it all. It's just so much stuff. You never really have the time to spend with all of the incredible releases. So inevitably things slip through the cracks and you miss things. But if someone were to just start to get into metal now, they have not only everything that's coming out currently in this current year and the next years to come, but the backlog and catalog of everything that they then have to go back in time and explore is just endless. I mean, really, I mean, I guess in some ways the internet makes it easier, but also you get a lot of people who can look at an album and have all of those albums at their fingertips and say, oh, well, that album's trash or that album is junk, and but they're looking at it from having all of that in context and looking at it in this period of time where like you're growing up with it, or that album comes out and it means something to you at a period of time or a special place. When you hear it, when you buy it, when you go to the record store, and you couldn't actually look on the internet and be like, all right, what's the highest rated Napalm Death album? And, and you go and pick it. You go in the store and you see whatever's available. You flip through the CD racks or, and you cassette racks, and you look at something that has a cool album cover or a cool name, and you buy it, and hopefully it's lucky, but you're stuck with it,
Yeah, basically. Yeah, that's why I used to just flip through. It's like, okay, I got onto Cannibal Corpse. What's a great album to start with? And I got Tomb and the Mutilated. Because I just saw the cover, like the two dead corpses. I was like, well, this is going to piss off a lot of parents. It probably pissed off a lot of parents back in the day, being the early 90s and how big death metal was. But then you can go back to like Morbid Angel with Altars of Madness and Death, Scream Bloody Gore in 1987, which Chris was playing drums on. And, because everyone just thinks, like death metal in the 90s, like, but then go back to the late 80s, then you got Leprosy by Death as well, and then Slowly We Rot by Obituary.
Scream Bloody Gore, that was a great purchase for me. I remember I was on vacation with my family up in Maine. We used to go up to the woods in Maine every year for a week or two in the summer, and there was this great record store up there called Bull Moose Music. I'm not even sure if they exist anymore. If they do, there's probably only a few stores, but I remember we're heading up there, and we passed this little CD record store on the way up, and I said, we got to pull in here and like check it out. I want to see what kind of stuff they might have. You stop in these little stores, and sometimes you can find some gems. And I started flipping through the CDs, and I was a young kid at that point, and flipping through all the CDs, and I saw Scream Bloody Gore, Death, and I was like, oh shit, I gotta have this. Honestly, didn't know much about Death at the time. I had never really heard much about him. I just saw that album, I saw the name, I thought, this is fantastic, I need to buy this. So I picked it up.
Yeah, that's what I did. Why? Because how I found out about him, I just went on YouTube, like buying like NTV website when you can go on there and listen to videos on there, and I saw Lack of Comprehensions by Death, and I thought, this is actually cool, but they must have other things besides this. Then I went back and it's like Spiritual Healing, and then before that Leprosy, and then Scream Bloody Gore, and then I got it at FYE in Florida when I went there in 2009 for the last time. Haven't been since. I need to go back. Picked it up, put it on my portable DVD player so I can watch like the films I bought there. Just put my earphones in and heard it from start to finish. I was just like, where's this been all my life? Do you ever get that feeling like you listen to an album and all of a sudden you're thinking, why didn't I listen to this before?
Sure. Absolutely. I mean, I still discover stuff that were, albums that have been around for forever, and for whatever reason, I just missed the boat on it. When I just, whatever reason, never took the time to listen to it or explore it, and then I've gained appreciation for it, later when you kind of go back and say, why did I always dismiss this album? Good example. Paradise Lost is a great example of a band that, for whatever reason, growing up, I just, I never really listened to them. I heard the name, I knew they existed. In my mind, I think I had a perception that they were something different, or maybe I just wasn't into that type of style at that point, and I just had dismissed them for years. And it probably, wasn't until maybe 7 or 8 years ago that I went back and just rediscovered all those incredible albums. But I'd written them off for no reason whatsoever, just because, I was into other stuff at the time.
Yeah, I kind of did that. Once I got into more death metal bands, like, yeah, I'm not going to listen to the other bands anymore. And then I thought I got to find something a little bit more, like somewhere in between, like something heavy, something a bit mellow. So Opeth, a big prime example there, and they were heavier, but they had like mellow parts as well. But yeah, with Paradise Lost, I heard Paradise Lost about, what did I hear, like 2008, something like that, 2008, 2009-ish. And I just thought, okay, this is cool. And then I heard like stuff after they did, like after Lost Paradise and Gothic and all that. The style kind of changed, but I always go back to the earlier albums because I'm more into the death doom sound that they did. But I also like I'm trying to remember what album it was, but one of my favorite songs from it is Beneath Broken Earth.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that song. I try to remember the bloody album. The Plague Within, that's it. That one.
There you go. That's a great. Yep, absolutely.
That's the one. I love that.
It's funny. It's funny these days, because I consume music in multiple formats, and I still love the physical format and CDs, and I know many of my friends and guys in the band, collect vinyl, and you can't get away from streaming as well. I mean, streaming's a reality. You listen to music on YouTube and Bandcamp and Spotify. But the one thing I find that I even struggle with these days is it's so disposable when you're listening to it in the streaming format, right? So if you listen to it, it's easy to just click on something really quick, not really spend the time to get to appreciate it. There's no real experience connected to the, when you buy an album or you see a band live at a show and you connect with that experience or that moment, and then you buy that album, you're creating an experience around that as well. You have something visually to connect it to, and an experience of when you bought it. And I'm sure most people who have bought a physical album could tell you exactly when they bought that album, where they bought it, whether it be a record store or festival. Where streaming, it's hard to remember when you first heard it, and it's easy to just go on to the next thing and forget about it. It becomes just even if it's an amazing album, you just forget because there's so much out there.
Yes. Yeah, I completely agree with that. I'm more of a physical, like let me phrase that. I'm more of a person who buys CDs. Sometimes I might download an album if I can't find the CD anywhere else. But because I got some tape as well, and I bought a split of Spectral Voice and Blood Incantation when I saw Demilich 2 years ago at the Boston Music Room here, not in Bristol, but in London. It's not in Bristol, it's in London. And I just bought a tape, and I'm like, oh yeah, I remember when I bought this tape, I bought it there. Or this T-shirt, I bought it when I saw Fresh Call in Cardiff. Or getting to your band, getting your band very closely here. Or when I pretty much bought this.
Yeah!
This is Matt's band, Cynicism, which he was talking about. Yeah, let's get into Cynicism before we chat more bands. When did this band form? Who came up with the name? And there we go.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's wild. So I mentioned the other guitarist and member, and my best friend Bill. Growing up together, we formed the idea around Cynicism back in probably the mid '90s. I actually I recently found a bunch of old sketches I had in notebooks of the Cynicism logo, and as we were getting into death metal and picking up guitar and learning Slayer riffs and things like that, and we had this idea of wanting to start a band, and we came up with the name, and we didn't quite know exactly what Cynicism was going to be, but we knew where the influences that we had at the time, Suffocation and Exhumed and Carcass and all those. I mean, Exhumed came a little bit later down the road, but like it was those bands kind of influenced us in a big way, and we knew we wanted to form something that had that sort of vibe and energy. So, but really, as life goes, it's hard to find the people and the time to actually create that vision and make it a reality. So I had lyrics, I had saved for years, written in notebooks. And just, you know, anytime I thought of an idea or a cool concept, something like psychotic or just insane, you know, I'd start to write down the lyrics and thinking maybe one day we'll finally do something with this. And same with riffs. We'd capture riffs, or we'd record them. We'd have all different, you know, files with riffs on them and CDs burned with riffs on them. And then really it wasn't until maybe 12 years ago that finally we just said, you know what, we have all this material. We've been talking about this for over a decade. Fuck it. Let's just do it. Let's jump in and just make it happen. Let's write these songs. Let's pull these riffs together, pull these songs together, and find the people to that are wanting and willing to join and have that same kind of vibe. So we went through a few iterations early on. Like we were driving up. So being in Boston, we were driving up to backtrack for a second. Bill was in this band in the late 90s called Arch Nemesis, and they released a demo, 4-song demo. I've been trying to tell them to put that thing out on YouTube or online because I think it's a great snapshot in history. It's total old school death metal. And they put out a demo, they played one live show, and that was it. But anyway, we connected with the drummer, and we drove up to New Hampshire. It was about 2 hours each direction, and we started rehearsing the songs with a live drummer for the first time in this freezing cold basement. You know, it was basically a concrete basement. It was middle of the winter. I mean, it was frigid. We'd have on jackets and sweatshirts and, you know, hats and everything just to be able to play through these songs. But for us, it was amazing to start to put these ideas to life and drums behind them, and be able to actually see that these songs had the vibe we were looking for, and that could actually, you know, stand on their own. So, but just fast forward, you know, we ran into Sean and Mark, and that's really what gelled us as a band. Mark is the drummer and also does all the artwork. So we really pride ourselves on taking everything to the fullest extent. Yeah, there you go.
The band, and Bill is there. For anyone
Bill's there.
who's Bill.
With the Blue Jackson, and Mark is just a savant. I mean, this guy he hand paints all of this just insane artwork. He's incredible. He's an incredible drummer. He's an incredible guitarist, and just a really creative guy. And he does a lot of his artwork under Dark Recollections Art. So if you look up on Instagram, you can see kind of all the cool different vibes, but he's got a really unique style. And then Sean is just an awesome dude. I knew through the scene for years, just see him at shows. We'd be, you know, headbanging, like just going crazy, drinking beers. And, you know, I remember being at a show, I think it might've been Nile or something. And I ran into Sean. I said, "Hey man, we got this fucking band. You know, do you want to join? We need a bass player." And he goes, "Well, I don't really play bass, but shit, man, sounds awesome to me. Like, I'll give it a go." So he came down, and, you know, we just all hit it off. And Sean's vocals, which are all over that album, are just insane. He's got this just insane, low, brutal, dynamic voice that he can do a lot with.
Yeah, because I ordered it. I ordered it, and I thought, well, I got to get it because you mentioned the band in Sweden. Checked it out, and I was getting like all these different vibes from like all your influences, like General Surgery, Carcass, and those sorts of bands. And the artwork itself, people, look at it. Look at the artwork. That just screams death grind, gore grind, and all that. Look at it. It's if you want to buy it, I'll ask Matt in a minute. CD as well. Nice CD. The logo is cool. Is back of the seat. Oh, for fuck's sake! I can't even talk. We praise all over the place, but yeah, highly recommend Cynicism, people, because I told Matt about one of my bands, Herbicidal, which I've mentioned. And speaking of Herbicidal, I sent a link to Chris, and he messaged back saying, "Oh, this is cool. Oh, this is really heavy, man. Cool stuff." I was like,
yeah, I love the vibe of Herbicidal, man. It's great. It's got like an old Doom, just a great, cool, like Black Sabbath-y kind of style riffs in there. I mean, shit, man, it's awesome. I mean, there's just that just goes to show you. I mean, there's so much talent in the underground scene and the metal scene. I mean, and there's all kinds of different styles, and people can be into different styles and different bands, and more modern stuff, old school stuff, doom, death, black, whatever it is, and I always had the mindset that music is a personal experience for people. So like what you choose to like, if you like something, or even an album that everyone else says, oh, that's total shit, that's garbage, but you like it, then fuck it, you like it. That's the reality, and that's the beauty of the metal scene, is there's just so much awesome stuff that it's hard pressed to find something that you can't enjoy if you're a fan of metal.
Yeah, definitely. I've been listening to a lot of bands. Like, when I had Sam on, a mate of mine here, we were talking about bands like Tomb Mold and Spectral Voice and Fed It and Witch Vomit, Cerebral Rot, and got like the more cavernous death metal, if you want to call it cavernous death metal, because it's got that very dark, cavernous, nasty sound to it, which is what I'm going with my own death metal band, but I digress. And all those albums they want, especially not the first Tomb Mold album, the second Tomb Mold album, it's brilliant. Just obviously what I loved about it, because it's so heavy, and also it's very Bloodborne inspired, because that's where they got their name from. On this,
and there's just something about the energy of that band, because I am definitely a big fan of Tomb Mold, and what really, which is the case for a lot of bands for me, is seeing a band live is what seals the deal. And definitely. For me, when I first saw Tomb Mold, I didn't know a whole lot about them. I'd heard some of their music, but seeing them live, I was like, oh shit, okay, I get what's going on. And there's just, when a band hits right, there's a vibe, right? There's an energy, there's a connection that you can't quantify. You can't look at it and say, well, it's just a riff created here or a drum part created here, but there's some sort of this energy or synergy that's just really makes the music connect and hit a certain special spot and make you connect with it, make you want to move, make you want to feel something. And I always can't come back to music. The reason I like a band, or a band sticks with me, is it has to make me feel something. So what it makes me feel could be different. I may be in a mood where I'm looking to just, explore sort of just some intricate, thoughtful music, and really put a lot of time into the intricacies of the musicianship. Or I might want to get fired up and have a bunch of beers and hang out and barbecue with some friends, or whatever the vibe is you're looking for, as long as it makes you feel something. If it's just generic and boring and just doesn't actually create any kind of energy or feel for me, not to say it doesn't for someone else, because what I find energetic or find a vibe from doesn't necessarily mean everyone's going to find the same sort of energy and vibe for themselves. So, it's all such a personal experience.
Yeah. Well, I didn't see Tomb Mold. Like, they did play Bristol, but I thought, oh crap, I got shit to do tomorrow and I can't stay out, like bollocks. Regret that now, but hopefully when COVID decides to piss off and they come back, I'll definitely be like, yep, he's not doing that to me, folks. I'll bring that out.
COVID, man, it's been a pain in the ass. I feel bad for all the bands, man. I mean, there's bands whose livelihood depends on it, venues, promoters, so much of our scene, and even, as fans, just that release and the mental health aspect of going to a live show. I mean, it's such a ritual for folks, and to have that void right now is definitely tough.
Yeah, it's been hard for me, because the last proper gig, like biggest one, the last gig I went to was the Testament tour with Exodus and Death Angel, and that was amazing. And that was the last big gig I went to. And the album that I was trying to remember from Tomb Mold is Manner of Infinite Forms.
Infinite Forms, yep.
That's my favourite one, because my favourite track on it is Abyss Walker. Just love how it starts off. It's like a bit of the vocals, then you hear the guitar and drums come in. But yeah.
And like Chris, the drummer of that band is the vocalist, which is incredible.
Yeah, definitely. That's what I was chatting to Chris Ryford about, like drummers and vocalists. Like, oh, you get just vocalists or guitarists and vocalists or bassists and vocalists. But then you think drummers and vocalists, they're out there. You just got to look. And like you were saying about bands that make like what makes like the music makes you feel like. When I saw Spectral Voice for the first time, I saw them lit by candlelight. They had candles on stage, but I'm thinking a lot of them have long hair. They're going to burn their hair off. And then I went to go get a drink at the bar in Boston Music Room, turned back to the stage. The candles were blown out, but they were still playing. And that music just made me feel like, wow, this is so good. It makes me feel well, some people might think, okay, that's a bit morbid, but to me, it's not morbid. It made me feel calm.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's awesome. And that's why, again, the live show, the live music part and the feeling behind that made you connect with that. You mentioned the candles and the fire. I got a funny ass story. One of my favorite bands, one of my favorite bands of all time. I'm sure some of you people know it, but I'm sure you know it, Jake. Impaled, yes. For me, fucking gore metal. That their style and their songwriting and the melodies. Impaled is one of my favorites. And when I was a young kid, I went down and I saw, I got to see Impaled play live at this small shithole club in Providence, Rhode Island. And so at that point, they're middle of the set and they had these flammable, I don't even know what they were, but the flammable sort of like axe blades. I don't know if they were made out of on the headstocks of their guitars.
Yeah, I think I know what you're about, but continue.
So they're these little cutouts that were on the headstock of the guitars, and they're jamming. And all of a sudden, throughout the show, a few times they break out the fire breathing. They put the liquid in and they breathe fire out of the audience. And then at one point, they light these things on their headstocks on fire. So they're jamming, just ripping through some thrashy ass freaking death metal riffs, and the headstocks are on fire. They're breathing fire from the headstock, and one of the guitarists is headbanging, and his hair catches on fire mid-headbang through the headstock, and he's like trying to put it out as he's still playing, and he's trying to put his hair out. If you ever smell burning hair.
That just screams no for me, because I love having long hair. I have not had short hair for 11 years. So
looking back now, you realize how after in that same city, that whole station nightclub tragedy, which was a real tragedy, and the club burnt down. This was prior to that even happening, and you realize it's obviously quite dangerous in some of these places with a small club with flames. But at the time, I thought it was the most death metal thing I had ever seen. I was like, these fucking guys are it. I love this. They're playing
these guys.
These guys. I mean, shit, man. You're headbanging with your hair on fire. Like, I'm in.
Yeah, by the end of it, his head is like, the fuck? But yeah. No, that's Impaled, definitely a band that I still need to see. I'm not seeing them. For anyone that doesn't know Matt here, he is a married man, which you might think's a bit weird for death metalers to be married. And is your wife into metal at all, or not really?
I would say not really, but at the same time,
Rebecca's a name.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Rebecca. I've been into metal since I've known her. She actually met me when we were bagging groceries as kids at I was like 14 years old at a supermarket, and I had this just beat up Cannibal Corpse hat, she likes some stuff. I mean, she'll tolerate things like In Flames and Megadeth and Pantera and things like that, but it's not really her cup of tea. But she lives with it.
well, of course, because you're in a band, which is this one, folks. Buy the CD. But yeah, because one of my guests, Ken, who does Ken's Death Metal Crit on YouTube, he's also married, but his wife's not into it. His son was into Dio at a young age. Now he's not into any metal at all. And it's like, okay, you can talk to me about metal.
You find those connections. I mean, I've always been a big Soundgarden fan. I
like
think Chris Cornell is awesome.
Yeah, I love Soundgarden.
And, you know, and I always love Soundgarden, and she's a huge fan of Soundgarden too. So we always find these kind of areas of common ground. Like if we're on a road trip somewhere or whatever, we find those bands that, you know, that you both kind of appreciate. And there's definitely a bunch of them in there.
Yeah, I love Soundgarden. We got to see them at Download 2012. Yeah, that was the only time I got to see them actually, and it's fantastic hearing Black Hole Sun live. Was just like, yes. And then after them was Black Sabbath.
I mean, yeah, the music world lost a legend with Chris. I mean, he was just, you know, that voice is one of a generation, and you know, and you could tell he felt, you know, again, comes back to the feel. Like he's not mailing it in when he's singing those parts. He's feeling that from his, you know, from his soul. You know, that, you know, the darkness that lived within him and the struggles he had. That came out in the music, and I think there's a. You know, there's a part to music that is genuine when you lay it all on the line and you basically put yourself out there and transmit your energy in the form of music.
Oh yeah, definitely.
That's what people respond to.
Yeah, because I did that with the Herbicidal album, and Nothing Was Achieved,
which is a great freaking album title, by the way. I think honestly that might be the best Doom album title ever. It's amazing. It's amazing. I think that's one of the most clever album titles I've ever heard.
Yeah, because we were going to call it Toke Throning, or Toke Throner, but then we thought we're not going to rip off Electric Wizard or someone like that, so let's just call it something like that. Nothing Was Achieved. Okay, we've achieved absolutely piss all.
That's fucking awesome, man. I love that.
One of my mates, who's from Wales, he's in a band called Democritus, which are like mix of like melodic death metal sort of stuff, which I'll send a link to. He said, because he interviewed me and he was on about, oh, your vocals sound very emotional. I was like, well, I think I'm quite an emotional person as it is, so I just try to get all my anger and sadness and whatever out doing that, and then I'm like, all right, I'm just drained now, I need a beer.
Music does do that to you. I mean, even, you know, we're playing gore metal, so it's you know, it's not to be taken too seriously in terms of that. But you know, but we do have underlying in our lyrics, you know, sort of cynical views of the world through a gore metal lens, as we like to say. But at the same time, we put everything on the table. You know, even when we rehearse full speed, like we're playing live, and like you said, you're emotionally spent when you're done, even rehearsing or playing a show, because you know that's a sign of you know, the effort is just you lay it all on the line. You don't hold anything back, and that's just because I grew up in that style of music, maybe, or like I grew up in where metal was just all about the fucking energy and you know, that's it. You know, energy, crank the amps, forget all this fancy electronic gear and you know, digital this, digital that. You know, 2000 effects pedals. It's like turn the guitar, plug it in, turn up the amp, and fucking go grind fucking death metal. To me, that's what it's all about, you know?
Yeah, just go for it. That's what I was like when my vocals I did multiple takes. There's some takes I wasn't happy with. I'm kind of a perfectionist when it comes to that. Like, come into like doing vocals and stuff, or guitar, because I'm doing a Death Doom band as well. But I'll get back to like Herbicide, because we didn't actually do it in a studio. We did it out of rehearsal space.
Perfect. That's all you need.
Yeah, it was all DIY, because when I was actually in Sweden when we were hanging out with you guys, they were recording the music, which only took them 5 hours or something like that. With me and Leon, who's the guitarist, we did our vocals in like 2 separate recording days, and you know, mixed it at his flat, and then the album came out in April. So if anyone wants to buy any album, just type herbicidal.bandcamp.com, you'll find it there. And with Cynicism, you want to find their album. Where can we find this?
Same thing, cynicism.bandcamp.com. So it's on Bandcamp. You can look there. You can check out, we have like you have to these days, the social channels like Facebook, Instagram, but we're also on, I think, pretty much every streaming platform you can find. Limb Hymns is the name of the album. You can find it on there.
Yeah, Limb Hymns.
Spotify and where, Apple Music and Deezer and or find it on a torrent site or, steal it or whatever you want to do. Or if you want a copy, send us a note on one of the social media channels and I'll send you a download code. I mean, we don't care. All we want to do is, have fun with this thing. This is a project, that's for the love of death metal, hanging out with our friends and, like I said, cranking the amp and just putting it all out there and having a good time. I mean, there's no expectations other than that, really.
No, if someone says, "Oh, do you want to make money from this?" It's like, no, I just want to play music. That's it.
Exactly. What money? There's no money in death metal.
No, there's no money in it. You get money from the shows you played, so you can buy fuel or some beers or something or some snacks for like going back, like getting petrol for your van and then traveling to the next fucking show or whatever. That's basically what we need money for. We need money so we can drink. That's what most bands say.
It is different because every band's at a different level and there are, do to sustain, luckily for us, we all, this is a passion project for us, you know what I mean? And, full-time jobs to pay the bills, but
yeah, definitely.
At the end of the day, like the biggest reward for us is that, if anyone, even one person took the time to listen to it and love it or hate it, if they took the time to actually listen to it, whether they give a fuck or not, to me that means more than anything in the world,
Yeah, well, there's one person that actually gives a fuck about it. He's right here. And well, I can, like you said, you mentioned passion. I can definitely get that sense from this. You guys took a long time to record this. Obviously, I'm going to get the book out again because I got Sean, that's his name. For fuck's sake. Big bloke. I can tell from the pictures of the band. He's like 6 foot something or whatever.
Oh yeah, well over 6 feet, and just he's a gentle giant. I mean, we call him monster size. He's one of the nicest guys you could ever meet, and just
that's cool.
As real as it comes. Just such a great guy.
Yeah,
and he's just a monstrous force on the microphone and on stage.
Like Zolbers, and then you come and go.
I mean, that's always the best because his vocals, he's just so awesome, and there's been times where we'd be playing live or rehearsing, and we try and bring the intensity when we're playing live, and there'll be times where I will start laughing in the middle of a performance, just start laughing because he'll do just the most like disturbing, disgusting sound, just like we have the song structures and the lyrics, but then we also there's no rules, it's like you just whatever you're feeling at the moment. If you want to blurt out some brutal guttural sound, fuck it, go for it. And sometimes he'll do something at the right spot at the right time that's just completely unexpected, and I just can't stop but I got a grin from ear to ear,
And then because you're on stage playing guitar, then you got to do your vocals as well. And I was going
to blew out the PA at we played this little place in Salem. I don't know if you're familiar with Salem, Mass, but it's a historical place in Massachusetts where they had all the witch trials, the Salem witch trials back in the day. And it's they have the satanic church or temple or whatever they call it there. And so we played this gig at this little like a sushi restaurant that they convert at night into a live music venue with this tiny little club and a small PA. And so we're going on performing, and we didn't even realize it, but Sean's vocals were so powerful, it was blowing out and distorting the PA because he just had so much, he was moving so much air and so much intensity, with his performance, that it was just crackling the speakers inside this little place.
That just sounds like a sight to behold, and I hope to see Cynicism live when you guys play more shows. Even if I have to travel to see you guys, I bloody will.
We'd love to be able to get over to the UK and play if that would ever be a possibility. You know, we were definitely open and down to, you know, play whenever, wherever, as long as we can logistically make it work, we're there, you know?
Yeah, I'll tell some mates about you and see what they can do. Hopefully, well, fingers crossed. That's
we'll play in that fucking room of yours right there. How much space you have in this little living room space or bedroom or whatever this is? Like, we could probably fit up in that corner there and just invite a few friends over, and we'll have some beers, and we'll just
definitely
we'll grind.
Well, I do live with my dad at the moment. Once I got a place of my own, you can go fucking nuts. How long did this take to record? I was going to ask.
Oh, goddamn, man. It was a long process. You know, we were figuring it out as we went. You know, we didn't, you know, we wanted to do it ourselves. We wanted to make sure that we were learning as we went, and we wanted to make sure that what we had in our minds of what we wanted this to sound like was actually going to be what it sounded like. So, you know, we decided we didn't want to go to a studio and incur all the expense of a studio and the time crunch to be able to do it there, and then be left with whatever we're left with. It's like, okay, well, you go in there, you spend all this time and, you know, limited time and money in a studio, and at the end of the day, it is what it is, you know, at that point. So we took our time with it. You know, we recorded it all here at my house,
nice.
where we rehearse here as well. So we got a little spot in the basement garage where we got set up, and a little, you know, soundproofing blankets and things like that. And I had a little bit of experience with audio engineering. So I had a Pro Tool set up, and had some microphones, and borrowed some microphones from some friends. And we recorded everything, tracked everything right from the basement. We did the drums for this album, 2 takes in each song. And originally, the interesting part was we were just going to do it as a demo recording. We purposely didn't put anything out because we didn't want to put these songs out there that didn't really meet the vision that we had. So we could have just put together some crappy recordings and thrown them up online, but there was no point to that in our mind, because we weren't under any timeline. You know, we're not on a record label, and we weren't accountable to anyone but ourselves. So really, at the end of the day, it was really making sure that whatever we did put up, that we were happy with at the end, and that it was truly what we wanted the sound to be and to represent. So, you know, we took our time with it, but we did the tracks for the drums in 2 takes, and Mark just killed it. And guitars were recorded, vocals were recorded. Everything was tracked. The vocals were tracked from this room here, and we did you know, a handful of takes on that just to get some crazy brutal sounds and put it all together. And it came out the way it did, and we couldn't have been happier. Like, I mean, it's unbelievable how much time and effort we put into it, but it was all worth it in the end, because really the sound was incredible. It was mixed by a friend of ours, Matt O'Rourke, who is, if you don't know the band Brain Famine, you got to check out Brain Famine. Awesome grind band. They have a new album coming out, I believe next year, probably. They're working on new material, but they have 1 full length already out. Incredible fucking band, and great dudes, like some of the best dudes. And so I'm trying to mix this damn album, right? I've never mixed an album before, so I'm trying to mix the thing. I'm spending all this time like learning plugins and learning how to EQ and compress and shit that I just didn't really fully have any experience to do. And ultimately it was taking a long time. And Matt, who's a friend of ours, just said, "Hey, dude, send me the tracks. Let me take a whack at it." And that we trusted him enough to give it a try. And if it wasn't for him, there's no way this album would have sounded the way it did. I mean, he did an incredible job.
Yeah, well, on this album, it definitely shows, well, like with Herbicide, that was very DIY as well. But yeah, it definitely shows that you did it yourselves. You didn't go to a recording studio. You got it mixed by someone there. No, it definitely shows. Definitely.
But you gotta check out Brain Famine. I mean,
I'll check them out.
So great. They got the samples in between and just incredible blast beats. And their other guitarist, Chris, he fills in a lot of legendary bands, and they call on him when they need someone to play live. So he's played with Siege. He's played with Creative Waste when they played Maryland Death Fest, and a host of other bands. So he's really deep in that grind scene, and a well respected person in that scene as well.
Yeah, I got a mate named Simon who he's only been in the metal since 2014, but he's really gotten into a lot of his gore grind, his death grind, brutal death metal, slamming death metal, which I also love. And I think I'm pretty sure I told him about your band. If not, then that's my mistake.
No worries, man.
But yeah, he's definitely into his gore grind and stuff like that, because we got a band that I think you would fit pretty well with, and it's a band from, well, they're more London based, and they're called Basement Torture Killings.
You gotta send me that link. Can you post that link or send me that link after?
Yeah, I'll send you a link to Basement Torture Killings, or BTK for short. Fantastic band live, very horror movie sort of base, like, no, well, serial killer base, as they dress up like serial killers. And our friend,
a little bit like macabre, like
a bit like that, yeah. But these guys are like full on like extreme. And then when I heard this, I was thinking, Basement Torture Killings, yeah, these guys could definitely go well together, yeah. Because my friend Millie's the vocalist. She's like this 5'6" girl, lady, should I say, young lady, with pink and black treads, and her voice is so fucking powerful, and it makes you like, you like look at her. She dresses up in like these sort of like 50s style like pin-up dresses, and she's stabbing a stuffed teddy bear with a knife on stage. it's like, if you love this sort of stuff, then definitely check out Basement Torture Killings, which have a new album out, which my mate mentioned, and I got to check it out at some point. If they're watching this, I apologize. I've been busy with work.
You need to send me that. I mean, I love discovering new shit and underground stuff, and I there's just, again, there's so many bands that just no one would know about. They just don't have the exposure or the marketing behind them, but at the same time, they can hold their own with any other band in the scene. It's a matter of, kind of being able to cut through some of the clutter and be able to get people to give it a shot. And I love that shit. I'm always trying to find those little gems. They're endless, man. There's just so many incredible, talented people in the scene.
Yeah, I'll send you a bunch of bands that I know here, not just Bristol, but in other parts of the UK.
My wife always makes fun of me because I'm always taking notes. I got this. I have this. I don't even have it. See if I have it around here somewhere. But I have a notebook that I keep and I carry with me all the time. And anytime someone tells me about a band, or I learn about a band, or here, I'm taking notes. I'm jotting it down. I'm just always trying to figure out new ways to kind of curate and find and discover the shit on my own and keep track of it all.
Yeah, that's what. Well, I don't really take notes. I just try and remember the band name, and then like, oh crap, what's the band called?
Well, it's harder, right? Because all the names are out. There's like all the badass, like just sick death metal names. So many of them have been taken out, and then you still find some that newer bands that come out with a name, and you're like Tomb Mold, for instance, where you're like, okay, shit, man, that's clever. There's a local band here in the Boston area called Bacterial Husk. Awesome name, just Bacterial Husk. It just sounds so fucking killer, But bands have to dig deeper for these names, and sometimes I can't even pronounce half of them. You're looking at going, how do you say that? It's got like 15 letters in it, and I got whatever. I'm like, I don't know how to say that. Never mind, remember it.
Yeah, I'm like that. It's like, what's this? I remember that song, but what's the band called? But yeah, I was going to mention the Nasty Habits as well, because you interviewed quite a few musicians back in the day, like Johan Haig. You interviewed Trey from Morbid Angel, and yeah, let's talk about Nasty Habits.
That was it was an awesome time. I used to, so basically Nasty Habits was a radio show. It was on a great radio station. I was part of Emerson College, and as a kid growing up, that's where I got a lot of my knowledge of the underground. Was I used to listen to this show. It was on Sunday nights from 11 to 2 a.m. So I would set a cassette recorder, and I would start to listen to it, but I'd try and listen to at least the first hour, and then get the cassette to record for the next bit. and listen back the next day and try and discover what the bands were that were being showcased on this radio show. And I said, I'm going to fucking do this show one day. Like, I want to be on the show. I want to host this show. So, the things just kind of worked out, and I ended up actually going to Emerson for school, and went my freshman year, went into the radio station when the show was on. Guy Noah was running the program, and I said, hey dude, like, he was about to graduate, and I said, I'd love to take this show on. And he goes, well, shit. He goes, the show's about to go off the air. It was on the air since 1983, I want to say. I mean, they had Metallica perform live on this show. I still wish they had the recordings, but back in like the 80s, before anyone knew who the hell Metallica was, they performed on this show, Nasty Habits.
Cool.
Unbelievable story. And so luckily it's just right time, right place. And I was able to take over that show, and we expanded it to a Saturday and Sunday program. So we had 2 days, 11 to 2 a.m. We brought on a few other hosts, and we had tons of live bands perform. We had interviews, and we just played, sick music and reached a lot of folks in the local scene. And timing is everything, right? Timing is really everything. And this was in the early 2000s. So this was right before, any online music, streaming music was even a thing. So it had a good impact because it was a good source for people to discover. Radio is still, relevant, and people needed to find ways, between zines and there wasn't YouTube, and there wasn't all these online forums and online zines that you could find about these bands. So, it was right before all that stuff kind of happened,
Yep.
in the very beginning, 2000 to 2003. And we just had a blast. I mean, we had Misery Index play a live set. We had Cephalic Carnage, Origin, when Origin first came out with their original singer, the very first Origin album, they were on tour with Cephalic Carnage. So both those bands came to the studio and did a live performance, which we have, the recordings. And recently I went back, it was so many years ago, and went back and found all this awesome content. So I found these live shows and interviews, like you said, with Trey, with Morbid Angel, and just so much cool content that was a stamp in time, a stamp in history, and decided to put it all up on YouTube so that folks could gain access. But I mean, my long-winded answer, the main catalyst for doing that was it was at the beginning of the pandemic, and, people were losing their jobs, and there was a lot of people out of work. And I wanted to do something to try and help generate some funds for feeding folks. So there's a organization called Feeding America, a huge nonprofit in the United States that provides food for a lot of food banks. And so I figured, all right, well, if I can tie putting all this content out there on YouTube and post some links to donate to Feeding America, and maybe folks will find some joy out of the performances and content that's out there, and make a donation to help support some people in need. So it worked out well, and I'm going to continue to follow through with that. And I got a bunch more that I'm going to upload to that channel.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, because I remember you posting a video on your Facebook, and I watched it, and I was like, then I watched your Johan Haig interview. I think you had one with Nurgle from Behemoth on there.
Yeah, that was a great interview. That was before Behemoth ever set foot on U.S. soil to play as a band.
Oh, wow.
They'd never even toured the United States. And now you look at a band like Behemoth, I mean, they're probably one of the bigger names in death metal, if not one of the biggest names in death metal right now.
Yeah.
And,
fantastic.
And that was an interview before they even came on tour in the U.S. And I in that interview, I'd asked them the question, I said, hey, you think you'll ever make it over here to the States? And Nurgle was like, hey, it's in the plans. We're trying to do it. This was right at the release of Zaskias Kaltas, which is one of my favorite Behemoth albums. And they said, we got plans, and hopefully we'll be there. And I think it was the following year they ended up finally making it to the U.S. And this is the other thing I'll say, Jake, because a lot of bands that in the metal scene that make it big, like Behemoth, it's easy for those folks in the underground to kind of like turn their nose up at a band that's been successful, like Behemoth, the bigger name act, like, oh, this band, how are they so big, and how do they get so, so popular? But I got to say, what? Those bands earned it. I mean, they worked hard and hard, and they toured tirelessly. I mean, and they put everything, every performance they did, they put all their energy, all their passion into it. They worked hard at it, and they slowly over time, you know, built up that reputation. And you got to give them credit for that. It's easy to look back as Monday morning quarterback and say, well, look at this man, they made it successful, and not realizing all of the effort and work that a band like that had to put in before they got to that level that they were.
Yeah, definitely.
They currently are.
Yeah, definitely. Because, well, little story about when, before I even saw Behemoth, I was meant to see him at Bloodstock 2010, but then a lot of people would know this. Nurgle got leukemia, and we thought, well, we're going to lose him at some point because we already lost Dio that year and Paul Gray from Slipknot that year as well in 2010. I didn't see Behemoth until 2012 at Bloodstock, and they just blew me away because I heard them before that, and then I saw them live, and the one thing I can remember Nurgle saying, and it's stuck with me ever since, he said, "It's so good to be alive." And I was just
Fuck yeah.
I was like,
I mean, that guy beat cancer. I mean, fuck, man. I mean, that's an incredible feat in and of itself. And then to be able to rebound from that and get back to creating music and get back to performing music, it's truly an incredible story.
Yeah, he's one of my favorite musicians and one of my favorite vocalists. Well, because last time I saw Behemoth actually was Download 2019. I was with my mate, the one who got wasted on the very last day. Before we went and saw him on and off, we were watching Behemoth, and we just got a picture of us just like, and by far that was one of my favorite performances at that festival, and I thought this just made Download so much better. But all in all, the festival is just shit because you got to walk miles from your campsite, which it feels like miles. It takes like an hour or whatever because wherever your campsite is, you're going. Because I need to clarify this with people. It's a racetrack. It's Donington racetrack. It's huge. That's why it takes so long to get from your campsite to the arena or from your campsite back to the car park. It's ridiculous. With Bloodstock, it's only 5 minutes from your campsite.
Is that the same place that I could be getting my facts wrong here, but is that the same place that Sepultura did the Under Siege live recordings?
Yeah, they did Monsters of Rock 94.
That was in Donington, right?
That was Donington.
One of my favorite, live performances, live recordings. It's an incredible live set.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, so yeah, that is Donington because Metallica played there in 91. I know that because there's even footage from that. Iron Maiden played there in 88. AC/DC played there like years before, I think. I can't remember. I'm getting my facts a bit mixed up, but still. Yeah, seeing Behemoth Download that year was just incredible, and I'm on them off as well. You know, that was incredible. Having my drinking horn, not losing it.
Amon Amarth's another one, man. I mean, they get shit on from time to time because they've been successful and they have a formula they tend to stick with. Obviously, like the Viking metal vibe. But man, they're a great band, and they have some incredible albums, and it's at the end of the day, it's fucking death metal, man. I mean, it's not like they're turning into pop.
No,
music
no, not that.
Like that.
They're not that bloody level of like that. But no, yeah. Well, people call them Viking metal. Well, it's melodic death metal, so you can say Viking metal, melodic death metal. It's all the same. Just singing about Vikings and raise your horns, and that's one of their songs. And
it's a great fucking time. Like Amon Amarth is a great time. I mean, are you gonna put on the headphones and deeply dive into Amon Amarth's music and find all of this sort of like intricate feelings? No, that's not what it's about. It's about you put that shit up and you grab yourself a truckload of beers.
Yeah.
And you have a damn good time,
Yeah, because speaking of Amon Amarth, and I mentioned the song "Raise Your Horns." My mate got married last year, and on the playlist was that song.
So we had Elstorm, a Monomoth, Gojira playing on the playlist, as well as other stuff, because his wife's not a big metal fan, but she does like a bit of Devin Townsend from time to time. And I love
awesome.
I love Devin Townsend as well.
Of course.
He's amazing.
Super talented.
He's an amazing musician, super talented, such a sweetheart of a guy, because I've met him in person twice. Got a picture of him last year in Cardiff, and I got the set list from there, autographed by him as well. Gave him a big hug after I had a picture of him. He's like, he deserves a hug.
He's an incredible musician. He really is.
So good. If I ever do an album and there's a song that fits him specifically, it's like, do you want to do this? I'm not doing vocals, you do this. If he says yes, like, good, that's it. That's all we need. Just you to say yes.
I mean, why the hell not, man? I mean, who would have ever thought that in Jake's metal chat here that you would have came up with this idea and all of a sudden get to interview some of the incredible folks that you've gotten to interview in just a short period of time.
Yeah,
I mean, it's awesome.
Yeah, because Cam, who I had on here before, he does The Graw, he's working on a death metal documentary called The Graw, Canadian bloke, like from where Two Mold's from, Canada, of course.
Some of the best death metal, Canadian death metal. You can't fuck with Canadian death metal. I mean, it's top notch. Some of my favorite bands are from Canada.
Yeah, Two Mold, along with, they're not death metal, but still one of the greatest metal bands ever, Anvil.
You got, of course, the legendary Gorguts and Cryptopsy, and that Cryptopsy, None So Vile. I'll talk about an album that influenced me in a major way. When I first heard None So Vile, I mean, that album probably changed my entire perception of what death metal could be. I mean, that album is top fucking notch extremity, like top notch, nonstop, front to back. You put that album on, and it's an experience and a clinic in absolute extreme music.
It's fucking insane as well. Just the amount of bass technicality that's on pretty much all their albums. Like the first album, that album, and it's just like,
and it's the subtleties, right? It's the subtleties that make me, you have the songwriting and the musicianship and the energy and the authenticity behind the music. But then, some of my favorite parts of songs and albums are those little subtle things that become sort of signature pieces of those songs. Like on Slit Your Guts, where he's got that scream, it's like, like that. Like that, to me, I can't hear that enough. Every single time I hear that fucking part, it's incredible. It makes me smile. I love it, and there's so many of those little pieces. It's all those small, intricate, real, honest kind of like, whether they be not planned. A lot of those things aren't planned in the recordings of these albums. You probably talk to folks. Those are things that just felt right at the time or got captured at the time when they're doing the recordings, and someone decided to scream, or they mishit a string, or they, whatever it might be, or just maybe flubbed the tempo a little bit or added an extra hit in there, and it stays, but it gives it character. It gives it a real human element.
Definitely human element there. Yeah, what was I saying? Yeah, Cam gave me the idea to do this because he was doing it on his Facebook profile, and then he puts it on YouTube, like what I'm doing. But I thought he's done a lot of his Facebook live, so I thought I'll do some live chats, but then I mainly just do it like this now because it just seems easier. Yeah, I've had John from Incantation, I've had David Gregor from Mortis Scold, I've had Chris from I've had two Chris's. There's Chris from Internal Bleeding, Chris from Autopsy. I've had Cam Lee, for fuck's sake. Cam Lee!
It's crazy,
the
man.
Legendary Cam Lee.
All those artists, all those bands. Internal Bleeding, I mean, one of my all-time favorites. I mean,
love
Internal Bleeding is the freaking best. And Incantation and John, Pending Diabolical Conquest. Such a legendary album for me personally. I love that album, Infernal Storm, all the whole catalog of albums, even the new one. I haven't explored it all that much yet, but I need to spend some time with the new record.
Yeah, that Internal Bleeding's new album, Well, I know. Oh yeah, Incantation's new album.
Incantation.
I was going to say, you probably heard of Internal Bleeding's recent album that they brought out. But yeah, yeah, I've heard Incantation's new album. Holy shit.
So crazy. I mean, I remember even hearing the song Ibex Moon when I first heard that track back in the day. I was like,
that album is so good from start to finish. I was just like, still got it. Because you think with a lot of old school bands, they just sort of just, no, a lot of them still keep going. But then you've discovered all these other old school bands that ain't going anymore. And one of them that Cam mentioned on one chat is a band called Grotesque Infection, who I never heard of. And they were from the Niagara Falls area in New York.
Oh, shit. See, again, another band that just never probably worthy as any, but probably never got just never, for whatever reason, right time, right place, just never got the exposure.
They never got that big. They released like some demos and stuff. I got the collaboration CD that like with all their demos and stuff on it. I've heard stuff on YouTube, and I was just like, this is some solid death grind.
Fuck yeah.
Old school, all the way old school. This is an early 90s band, so.
Fuck yeah.
Early.
I was just laughing. I figured you'd appreciate this because you like cool shit. I've been doing a lot of little, craft projects, I guess, but I got this little Slayer coaster I made. It's just basically a clay, I don't know if you can see that.
That is cool.
A clay coaster, then I just drew the Slayer logo in there. A little cynicism glass that I hand painted that thing.
Oh, that's cool.
Gore torn, a little blood splatter on there. You got to do things to keep yourself occupied and have fun.
Yeah, that's why I'm going to start doing some wood burning at some point. Like just put some art on some wood. So that'd be like Viking related stuff or band related.
I've seen some really cool wood burned art and stuff. That's awesome.
Yeah, I'm going to start doing.
You talking about literally burning designs into wood? Yeah,
you get like traces from like artwork. You trace the art onto the wood, and then you just burn the art into the wood.
That sounds awesome.
So I'm going to do that just because I need to do something else besides. This keeps me occupied. Playing music keeps me occupied. Playing video games keeps me occupied. But I'm thinking I need to do something that's something more artistic as well. Some more artistic stuff. So what can I do? Wood burning.
I have a friend that got into chainsaw art. Just he's taking a chainsaw and carving out crazy ass shit and like making really cool, intricate designs with a chainsaw. Yeah. I mean, that's not badass. What the fuck is? I'll
just get someone to go, yeah, can you do this? And it'll be Realm with Chaos. Do that on wood. Like zzz, there you go. But yeah, we're having fun here, people. Talking metal and
Jake's Metal Chat.
We're
hanging out. What's everybody try? I hope everyone's got a cocktail or a drink going. But yeah, Jake, appreciate everything you're doing here with this Metal Chat and anyone that does anything, no matter what it is, just do something. Like you got your, you want to do videos, you want to write music, just create, just do shit, have fun, enjoy it, and put yourself into it. And why the fuck not? We live once. Life's short, man. You gotta embrace every moment. Have a good time doing it.
Yeah, life's short. You live once, and very inspirational words from Matt here. And with his general surgery long sleeve, if there's any general surgery fans out there, there you go. And Flesh Core again. Got to mention Flesh Core from Germany.
I'm bummed with General Surgery is a band that's been influential for me as well, and this would have been for Cynicism, such a dream come true show. We were supposed to play with General Surgery and Bird Flesh this past May, and with COVID that all got canceled. So fortunately, they rescheduled. They were going to be in the States for Maryland Death Fest, and they rescheduled Maryland Death Fest for 2021. And we're hoping if things can get back on track and they still come over and the festival can happen, that the show will get rescheduled. But unfortunately, I think I just saw a post just yesterday from the MDF organizers, and things aren't looking great for a festival at this point. It's only 7 or 8 months away, which is a long time. But I think we, as a world, have a long way to go before we can start to have packed venues and crowds.
Yeah, well, hopefully, I'm hoping UK Death Fest happens, because Massacre's meant to be was meant to be playing last year, along with Autopsy, and hopefully.
Which Massacre?
Cam Lee.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Yep.
I was talking about
the South American Massacre as well. They have that band is such a fun band.
Yeah, I was talking about with Cam, and he was saying, we're still booked for UK Death Fest, and they said, it should have been called London Death Fest because it's in London. But whatever. Yeah. Oh, I'm trying to remember what I was going to say now. Can't remember. Yeah, I was going to mention the gig you were meant to play with General Surgery. They were supposed to be playing with General Surgery, Birdflesh, and a band from Finland called Galvanizer.
Galvanizer. Fucking awesome.
Who I saw in February this year at Filmfest in London. I was just like, where's this band been all my life?
Yeah, another example where you can't stop discovering awesome fucking music.
Yeah, because
there's just so much of it to be had, and we have access to it all at our fingertips, which I mentioned earlier, is a blessing and a curse, at the same time, right? Because sometimes there's too much stuff, you can't sift through it all, but at the other hand, you can easily access anything quickly. So, I go back and forth on that. The reality is you can't change the situation we're in. So, technology is real, and it's been real, and that's not going away. So, you have to find little tips and tricks that work for yourself to kind of curate and discover new music and find stuff that resonates with you. And it's easy. I notice, I see it myself all the time. It's easy to get overwhelmed with just the sheer amount of music that's out there. There's just so much of it. And I always say, I don't want to miss anything. Like, there's just so much good shit out there. And I'm like this sponge. I want to absorb. If there was 36 hours in a day, I'd spend 36 hours in a day listening to death metal if I could. It's just impossible to in a 24-hour day with sleep and work and life, to be able to listen to all the music that's out there and really get to appreciate it. So you have to, at some point, pick and choose the ones that mean something, or that feel something to you, or have a greater impact to your style or your vibe.
Yeah, definitely, because there was so many bands that I only knew, like Demolic, Convulse, Pertinence. I knew those three bands because I like the biggest Finnish death metal bands ever, but then there's all these other bands I didn't know. Well, actually, like another band I knew, Solifus. I knew who they were because I saw them at Eradication Fest 2017. Then obviously I saw bands I didn't even. Oh yeah, Ripicula, another big one from Finland. Then obviously I just saw all these other names like Gorephilia, Galvanizer, and all these other bands. I was like, and Sadistic Forest, and I was like, what the fuck? I might have got that last name wrong. I think it's Sadistic Forest. It is a. I'm doubting myself now. I shouldn't do that.
well, you touched on Canada and Finland and Sweden, and we talked the UK and the US, and you look all over the world. The brutal death metal scene in Indonesia.
Oh, definitely.
The extreme stuff that comes out of Asia, like really like dark cavernous stuff, or things that are based in sort of like kind of crazy, punk style, and every part of the world. Africa. There is Middle East. There's extreme metal music in every single part of the world, and it's awesome. And you'd be hard pressed to find another scene that has this much of a global influence and impact, and the influence of those bands and the cultures and places they live have an influence on their sound too. I mean, there's you can start to see like some of those influences in the style of music that they play, and whatever's, you know, part of the culture and the style of music, whether it be folk music or you know, classical or whatever it is in that particular area or region, that then provides a new perspective on how they approach metal. And that, to me, that's fascinating, because it is this truly global language that exists. Definitely. and that most of the world, and as big as these bands get, we talked about Behemoth and Amon Amarth, and, you know, even the bigger bands like, you know, Sepultura and even for fuck's sake, Iron Maiden. I mean, those are household names for metalheads and some people who are on the peripherals of metal or know people. But to the mainstream world, to the millions and millions and millions of people that live on this planet, as big as they are to us, they're not big in the world. I mean, there's people that if you could say the word Iron Maiden, they'd have no idea what the hell you're talking about. They wouldn't have any idea what the music is. They wouldn't know the band. They wouldn't recognize it. Some people might have heard it before, but I would say there's a large percentage, millions of people that have probably never even heard the name Iron Maiden, you know? So, you know, as much as it seems big in our small world, our metal world is global, but it's also still very small.
Yeah.
You know, and the impact to more mainstream is just, you know, it doesn't exist. And it's great that way. It exists on its own. It's always stood on its own. It doesn't need commercial media. It doesn't need any of that to exist. And it doesn't need anything to transcend cultural borders and cross oceans and seas. Like you know, you could pop on right now and find a sick ass band from Japan, you know, just like that sick ass metal band, you know, and it's incredible to have an art form like that has a similar passion, vibe, and aesthetic throughout all these different cultures that are so distinct, so different, and so far removed from each other. And then there's this collectiveness that exists within metal, and we got to never forget that, man, because that's important. You know, it's important to the fundamental survival of the scene. You know, it really is.
Yeah, and you know, I agree with pretty much everything you just said. It doesn't really need to be overly global in our world. It's fine where we are, but then, yeah, like you said, it may be big global, but it's still kind of small because, like you said, not very many people will know who Iron Maiden or Sepultura or Black Sabbath or Motorhead or anyone like that is. But obviously we do, because we listen to them on pretty much a regular basis. And I was going to mention some bands from Japan, which 3 of my favourites are Sabat, Vomit Remnants, and Coffins, who I got to see last year. They were amazing. I love Coffins.
All three incredible bands. I love. Actually, this morning I almost put on my Coffins long sleeve. I'm a big fan of Coffins. Vomit Remnants is an incredible fucking band. Their older catalog to me is just some of the best brutal death metal that's ever existed. And I even like the last one they put out a few years ago. I know a lot of people were critical of that. They thought it sounded, you know, really produced and almost Dying Fetus like in its production and sound. But, you know, I still enjoyed that record greatly.
Yeah, you know, I love bands from, like, you know, Japan and that, because it's like, because you wouldn't expect to hear metal from Japan, but then you hear like Coffins or someone, and you're like, well, they do metal. I know they did like very gory animated films and horror films and action films, but just hearing a death metal band from Japan is like, oh, yep, all right, I'm sold. And then
another one, Creative Waste from Saudi Arabia. I mean, they're the only grindcore band in Saudi Arabia, and they played the first ever metal show in Saudi. I think last year it was. Maybe it was 2 years ago at this point. But
yeah,
you know, I got a chance to see them, and I didn't know much about them, and I saw them play Maryland Death Fest, you know, many years ago, and they really definitely won me over, and that's incredible. Every part of the world, every corner of this planet, there's fans of metal. There's people that are plugging in. There's people that are cranking up the amps, and there's people that are putting it out there and creating something cool, which is fascinating. You know, I want it all.
You just want it all, yeah. Like you were mentioning Africa as well. There's one band that I checked out from Botswana called Overthrust, which is very old school sounding, very old school death metal. And they played Vakin like 5-6 years ago, something like that. And I was like, a band all the way from Botswana playing a German festival. That's an achievement in itself.
It's an incredible achievement. It's really just, you know, truly a testament to the scene and the people in the scene who just appreciate what metal is. Definitely. You know, and you'd be hard pressed to know what that common thread is. We all know it exists. You know, you see someone with, like you and I mean, fuck, look at how we met, you know, in an airport. It's like, oh, there's a metal guy. Yeah, there's a metal guy. Hey, what's up, buddy? You know,
it's like, metal guy.
And then all of a sudden here we are, you know, across the pond, having a, you know, building a friendship. You know, there's a common bond and a common thread that exists. And it's hard to really, you know, understand what exactly it is, you know, about that, but it's real, you know, it's real.
Definitely. Because with metalheads, we form this bond because we like similar bands, or I might like one band, you may not like a band, you may like a band, I don't like that band, but still, we got that bond. Don't necessarily, not every metalhead's going to like the same band, but you got that brotherhood, the brethrenhood. I'll call it the brethrenhood because my mate Simon, who I mentioned earlier, says brethren, metal brethren, and I'm going to plug his podcast in here, the Metal Brethren Show, which I will also link.
I tell you, like, you know, if you think about it, you know, I don't want this to sound overly philosophical by any means, but it, you know, metal is truly, like, I feel like it's the essence of being a human, you know, like, for the most part, you know, there's a realness, there's an authenticity, there's a human quality to metal, and it throws all the other societal shit out the fucking window. Definitely. And you bond over this sense of just being a freaking human and being in touch with you know, your own your own mortality and your kind of influence in the world as just this tiny speck in the greater scheme of nature and the planet and the universe, and you know, and there's a very hyper awareness I feel like metalheads tend to have around their own existence, you know?
Yeah, because being in metal takes me away from a lot of bullshit, negativity, and when I meet like-minded people such as yourself and Fred and Corey and Martin and all the other guys that I met at Scandinavia Death Fest, which I probably forgot half of them now because a lot of them we all would have gotten drunk on the beer. I drank so much beer in Sweden, it's ridiculous. But yeah, meeting like-minded people is like great. We love a lot of the same bands. We love a lot, because one thing that I know metalheads have in common, we love horror films.
Absolutely. Big horror fan. I'm October. Great time to watch horror movies. You start, you know, in Boston, it's fall. It's starting, you know, the leaves start to fall. The weather gets cooler, and
yeah, it's happening
here. Something about that just that make. Well, what's your favorite? What's your favorite horror movie?
Favorite horror movie? Well,
or favorite horror. What do you call it? A brand, I guess, or whatever. Like, you know.
Well, one of my favorites is Friday the 13th. I have to say.
That's a classic. That was frightening growing up watching that. That was frightening, man. I think that's one of them. As a kid, that was one of the most frightening horror movies that I had seen at that point.
Yeah, I love Jason Voorhees has been one of my favorite horror movie killers for a long time. He's going to continue to be my favorite horror movie killer. But one of my favorite horror films of all time is The Thing.
Great one. Another great one.
I love that film. I love John Carpenter's films. I love his music that he puts in his film because he does it all himself. The music, not the whole film.
Yeah.
He's got a crew.
any great horror movie has a great soundtrack too. I mean, that's a part of it. It's the sum of all its parts, right? It's the and again, horror movies are all about energy and vibe. You know, they can be silly and campy and just absolutely ridiculous, and that's still a good time. A big bloodbath and slaughter and disembowelment and, you know, severing heads and all that crazy shit, and, you know, and then that's a fun time. And then you can also get the more, you know, the deeper, darker, you know, evil spirits, and combined with, you know, the visual imagery and the music behind it kind of builds this energy. And you know, sometimes that moment where you feel the intensity of a movie, you're like,
I'm just like this.
You don't even know why you're just at the edge of your seat.
Something's gonna happen.
Real amped up, you know. For me, it's the Hellraisers, man.
Oh, Hellraiser, man. Love Hellraiser.
Hellraiser's the top. I mean, Pinhead, you can't fuck with Clive Barker. Clive Barker is a personal favorite.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, Doug Bradley as Pinhead, just outstanding. I love this quote. We'll tear your soul apart. And then the main character, she's crying. Is like, oh, please, no tears. It's a waste of good suffering. I was like, yeah, this is so good.
Yes.
But yeah, like, I was going to go back to Friday the 13th because the first one I actually watched was part 2 and saw clips from part 1 in like a flashback, a dream that the character from the first film was having. And I just remember one scene, there's one of the guys is in a wheelchair, one of the characters in a wheelchair. I'm thinking, he's got to know Jason's behind him, right? And then he gets a machete in his face. It's like, you would have heard him. And then the couple that gets impaled in a bed is like, oh, well, this is what happens to dumbass teenagers when they have sex.
That's always the staple, right? Of course,
that's like the staple of any horror film.
You're running from the psychotic serial killer, and you find the one place to hide out, which is the barn full of like the dark barn full of like crazy tools and shit like that. And it's like, you know.
Yeah, because in Halloween, which is not overly gory, John Carpenter again, but it doesn't have to be overly gory because you just see Michael Myers and it's just scary like that, and the atmosphere itself, like one of the guys getting lifted up by his neck and then pinned to the door by a knife. He's like,
there's so many parallels to metal in horror movies, because you look at it, the flat out the gory ones, the gory ones aren't necessarily the scariest, even though they could be the most disgusting. They're more just good, clean fun. So
definitely.
You look at it that way and you're like, okay, well, there's different vibes within horror movies. There's ones that are like psychological, that are really like they kind of you know mess with your idea of like psychology and human psychology and pure evil and darkness. And then you have these ones that are just straight up like, you know, ridiculous slaughter, you know, bloodbath, you know, films. And then, you know, you have everything in between. You have, you know, unrealistic, you know, non-human characters. And then you have ones that are human characters, and you have ones that have barely any gore or slaughter in them, like the original Psycho.
Like a classic.
But at the same time, that movie is still, you'll be on the edge of your seat. And they did, it was so genius with Psycho where you didn't have to have all that in your face slaughter to feel the intensity of what a horror and energy of what the horror movie could be.
Yeah, you didn't really, like with Psycho, you didn't really need over the top blood or anything, because how Hitchcock filmed it just got you on edge the whole time, and learning about Norman Bates and having this split personality where he talks as his mother. And then, well, when he murders Janet Leigh in the shower, which when she said in an interview she couldn't have showers anymore because of it, and goes back to the house and goes, oh, mother, oh, God, mother, blood, and all that, runs back to the motel room and sees what his mother done, and then he is just acting all shocked, and it's like, this is very effective, but we know what he did. It's only when you find out near the end, he just comes in dressed up as his mother, and he's just got this psychotic look on his face. And it's like, remind me not to go to this motel.
It's genius. It's absolutely genius.
This is like before slasher films were even a thing. This is like what was sort of starting it off. Then you got Texas Chainsaw Massacre with Leatherface, and then absolute classic. And then years after that, you got Michael Myers in Halloween, and then 2 years after that, you got Friday the 13th with Jason's mother, and then you got Jason straight after that. I mean, those films just got ridiculous. Jason X, anyone?
Oh, the one, what is it? The one in space?
Yeah, Jason X. That just got ridiculous, but it's Kane Hodder as Jason, so you can't really be too mad at the film. It's Kane Hodder as Jason, and a lot of people will say he's one of the best Jasons ever. He's at the top. Below him is Ted White in Final Chapter, who was a stuntman for John Wayne, but there you go.
Yep.
And
You're a book of knowledge. How do you even have this?
I just do research. It's mad. But I got a funny thing about the documentary I was watching with Ted White, and it was about Friday the 13th, Part 4, or Final Chapter, what you want to call it. He didn't like Corey Feldman because he was just this hyperactive kid. And he wanted to literally try and kill him on set, but not kill him, but like scare the shit out of him. Because you've seen the film, haven't you?
Yeah, of course. Yep.
You know when Corey's by the window, Rob's body comes flying through their window.
Yep.
And there's the other window. Jason was meant to bump in after that, supposed to come in after that, but so much time elapsed. And Corey's face is not acting. He's generally just like not physically shat himself, but there you go. His face is genuine. He was literally scared because he didn't see it happen.
That's genius. I mean, now that's the subtlety we were talking about in music earlier, like the unexpected.
Very subtle. It didn't have to be like, oh, you got to see Jason every 5 seconds. No, you can see him. You can wait about 30 seconds to a minute until he appears again. Like in Part 3, you didn't see his face because in the second one he was wearing a fucking burlap sack over his head. Not many people would know that. He didn't get his hockey mask until the third film. I'm going all knowledgeable again, but you didn't see his face. But then people looking at the actor playing Jason would be like, because the actor who was playing him didn't do very many films, but probably wasn't even wearing any makeup in some scenes where it didn't show his face. But the actors had to believe, okay, they're looking at a disfigured man because Jason's very disfigured.
Yeah, that's it. That's interesting, and you got to have respect for people who act in the same regard. I mean, that's challenging because if they truly portray those characters and they live those characters to make it seem authentic.
But definitely,
it's got to. I've never even experimented with that. It's going to be a little awkward to be in this reality of like production crews and cameras and directors, and then you're just you're Jake, I'm Matt, you're talking, okay, cool, and then all of a sudden you got to do a take of this scene and you got to become this other character in that scene and sell it enough. You have to be genuine enough to like make sure that you become that actual character.
Yeah, I did that for a film. Yeah, it's definitely fascinating because me and Alex were in a film together last year called Cold Shot, titled Cold Shot. It's a horror comedy. It's a sequel to a film that the director did before. I was playing a character called Adam, who's a metalhead, but he acts like a barbarian sort of person. So I had to put.
But you're just playing yourself.
I'm just playing myself, but then I'm playing this like over the top sort of person. I had to put on this like over the top barbarian voice, going like, "You cannot stop the Metal Lord law." And then some bits was just, okay, I would generally just act like if I just got knocked out or something.
That's fantastic.
Oh yeah, I just thought I'm a metalhead, so I'm technically playing myself, but I'm playing a character who's a bit of an asshole.
So where is this produced? Is it out there? Where can I find this?
Is on a website called Vimeo.
Oh yeah, I know Vimeo. Sure. So you have some homework. You got to send me a bunch of this shit.
I am going to send
much of the bands you talked about, and the link to the Vimeo video of this. I gotta check this out.
Yeah, check out both films. Check out ODette first, which is the first one, which you'll see like a couple of metalheads, 2 friends of mine had like cameo roles in it. Quite a lot of my other mates were in it as well, in the first one and the second one. And yeah, check out both films. And I can say he is working on a slasher film, but I can't neither deny or confirm when it's happening yet. So just have to wait and see for all you horror fans out there. And
fantastic.
it's 6:49 here in the UK. Bloody hell.
Yeah, we got to wrap this up. This has been
we've got to wrap this up. We've been talking,
just
been talking like metal and stuff and going all philosophical, which I think is like the first time anything philosophical has happened in this chat. So yeah,
I don't know if you call it philosophical, but hey, you know, we
very,
touched on it a little.
You know, very deep conversation. But yeah, thanks Matt for coming on Jake's Metal Chat. Hope to have you back.
I appreciate.
Hope to have you back on again.
Yeah, we'd love to come back on again, and maybe next time we'll bring the rest of the guys and Cynicism and maybe even Martin. But Ed, I really appreciate you taking the time and putting yourself out there and doing this awesome project. I think it's great and some really cool stuff that people get to listen to and hear about, and hopefully discover some cool music on the way. So I appreciate it, Jake. It's fucking awesome, man.
Awesome. Yeah, definitely good to have you on and talk about Cynicism and what you've done before Cynicism and the bands you've gotten into, and the amount of bands we both like is astounding. We like a lot of the same bands, which is fucking awesome. And hopefully a lot of people are watching this now saying, "Oh, I've not heard of these bands." Well, check them out, people. Just type them on YouTube, Spotify, Deezer, which you can find herbicidal stuff, by the way, and go from there, people. So I'll let Matt get back to his day.
Fuck yeah. Well, I'm gonna get back to work for a little bit longer and wrap up the day. But yeah, I appreciate it again. And if anyone's interested, check out Cynicism. And if you like it and you're strapped for cash or whatever it might be, and you want me to send you a download code, just send us a note, and we're happy to send you a download copy. And but I appreciate anyone that takes the time to check it out. It means a lot to us. And
I'll be sure to link the description to their Bandcamp down below in the description. And
sounds good. Fuck off.
Fuck you. I love this guy. Well, thank you again.
Awesome, man.
Say hello to Rebecca from me.
Have a great weekend. Cheers, Jake.
You too, man.
Appreciate it, buddy.
Take care of yourself.
Oh, fuck.
Almost.
Oh, there he goes.
There we go. Well, thank you for that. Well, that was, I don't know how long this chat is. Might be another 2 hour long chat again. Yeah, thank you for that. Thank you for tuning in. I will be, I'll show the CD one more time. Oh, got to turn it one way. There we go. So it's Limb Hymns from Cynicism. They are a Boston-based death grind band. Death grind, gore grind, whatever you want to call them. You can decide for yourselves what you want to call them. Either way, it's grindy and death. It's very grindy and there's a lot of death in it. So yeah, check out Cynicism. Thank you very much for joining in. CD videos, vinyl videos, tape videos, and some. I just got a message from Matt, and some horror movie reviews from time to time. Or I might just do a separate channel. I just do this one horror review, and that'll be it. See where we go. Thank you very much, and have a great evening, morning, afternoon, wherever the hell you're from, and keep supporting all your favorite bands and just giving them endless amount of support. Take care.